Step into the freedom of summer with jewelry that reflects who you are and where you're going. From sunrise to sunset, Pandora jewelry transports you to paradise. No passport required. Think of things like ocean charms, colorful tennis bracelets. You can shop all of these new arrivals to add to your summer staples. Be unmissable and vacation ready. Feel it, live it, embrace it, be love. Shop in-store or online at pandora.net to discover new styles. I am so excited to see so many people talking about perimenopause and menopause, but honestly, it is a long time coming and way past due. For literally hundreds of years, society hasn't wanted to talk about menopause, and when they do, they make it sound terrible. So Walgreens is helping women change the perception and take back our narrative, because nothing is sexier than being in control. Let's reframe menopause together. Join the hashtag #MenopauseIsHot conversation and help reframe menopause.
It doesn't matter if it's hard. It doesn't matter if people are against us. The only thing that matters is, are you putting in the time and the energy to get the skill that lets you do something that you want to do in the world? And once you have that, now you've got this magic set up for fulfillment, which is, of course, the real punchline.
Hey guys, it's Rach. Welcome to the show. I'm so glad that you're here with us today. And I have a favor, which sounds kind of harsh if we just met, but I'm assuming that most of you have been a part of this community for a hot minute. And so I gotta ask, are you subscribed to the podcast? Subscribing to the podcast you listen to regularly is one of the best things that you can do for hosts like me. It helps to support the show and the staff that works on it. It ensures that you never miss an episode when we drop a new one. And here's the cool thing about subscribing. If you do it and then you hate this show, just unsubscribe. It's one click away. In the meantime, if you're listening, we would so appreciate it if you would just tap that button and make it official. If you're wired to push the limits, chase big dreams, and squeeze every drop out of life, this episode is for you. Today's mastermind is unapologetic motivation for high achievers. It's not fluffy, it's not soft, it's the raw, honest, powerful stuff that fuels greatness. We've pulled together the best wisdom from some of the boldest, most driven guests I've ever had on the show. Tim Grover, the legendary coach behind icons like Michael Jordan, reminds us that success is earned in the dark before anyone's watching. Jesse Itzler shares his unstoppable mindset for why doing hard things on purpose is the secret to building grit and confidence. Tom Bilyeu, founder of Impact Theory, breaks down how to program your mind for greatness and why failure is a requirement for progress. Yvonne Orji, actress and author, opens up about self-belief, staying true to your vision, and rising on your own terms. And lastly, Ben Horowitz, one of Silicon Valley's boldest leaders, explains how to lead through chaos and why being uncomfortable is part of the job. This is the kind of episode that I hope lights a fire. So if you've got a goal, a calling, or just a voice in your head saying you were made for more, turn this up and let's get into it.
I'm thinking of the person who's listening to this right now and is just like, oh, but what do you do if it's just you?
You know what? I'd rather have the ball in my hands than to have it in somebody else's. Your belief in you has to be stronger than your belief than somebody else's belief in you. That's the most important thing. You know, it's funny, just people go around and say, well, they don't believe in my dreams. They're not supposed to believe in your dreams. They have their own dreams. Believe.
They can't even see your dreams.
Yeah. Believe in your dream. Matter of fact, if they If you want them to support your dreams, guess what? You've given them a space in your head, which you shouldn't do, because now they can manipulate your dreams. You control the process that's up in here. You control the thought things that's going on here. You control the battlefield of the mind that's going on in here. We let too many individuals get into our space that should never be in our space. They should never be in there. I always say this, all right? Your best friends should never be too friendly.
What does that mean?
All right? If your best friends are always telling you everything is going to be okay, everything is going to be good, don't worry about this, all right? They should not be your best friends. You need allies. We have plenty of friends. Allies tell you exactly what you need to hear, not what you want to hear. You know, I hate it when you've worked so hard at something and it didn't quite go the way you wanted it, or, you know, it failed and you know it failed, and somebody comes around you and says, it's okay. I wasn't settling for okay. I'm not okay with this. There's nothing about fine and okay that I want in my life. All right. So okay is not an answer. You never settle for fine. But that's what most people, they think they're comforting you by saying it's okay. It's not okay. It's at this moment, it's not okay. I can accept that I failed because I'm going to learn from it. Because most of the time when you fail at something, I have no regrets with people that do what they're set out to do and don't get there. I have no issues. I have issues with people that don't. There's a big difference between when somebody says, you know, I tried my best. Did you try your best or did you do your best? Because if you tried your best, you give yourself an out. I just tried. Did you do your best? If you did your best and you failed at something, all right, I have no problems with that. If you tried your best, you already gave yourself an out. You already gave yourself an out.
Wow, that's so good. You talk a lot. I keep going back to Relentless because I think these two books are tied, because it's almost like, if people are listening and they haven't read the books yet, it's almost like Relentless is the journey and winning is the destination, for lack of a better explanation.
And I'm aware. And this one's going to piss a lot of people off. You know,
yeah, let's go.
Which I know you don't mind. And I say this in the book. All right. Everyone talks about the journey. It's about the journey. To me, the most successful people, when they take the journey, they always have a destination. Otherwise, they're just aimlessly running around here. You know, it's about the journey. That just gives people another out to say, hey, it's more about the journey and it's not about the destination. Why take the journey if you don't have a destination? Take the journey, get to that destination, then take the next journey, get to that destination, take the next journey, get to that destination. Every single individual I've known successful, every time they take a journey, they know exactly where the destination is. Otherwise, they're just aimlessly walking around and going in all different directions that usually they're not leading themselves in, somebody else is leading. How many times do you know individuals that somebody else is writing the story of your life?
You're on the boat. You're not the captain, though.
Yes. You know, and one of the things I say in the book, Winning, is like, how many people are the assistant managers of their life?
Mm-hmm. That's so real. And I think what's incredible, if you look at your client roster, is that these are people who it would be really easy to say, oh, well, yeah, they were an athlete and they just did this same thing over and over. And they, you know, pursued excellence in basketball or in baseball or whatever. But if you look at your clients, these are people who, like, if you use Kobe as an example, would just dominated in basketball and then went on and was like, I'm going to make movies now and I'll win an Oscar. And it wasn't just in sports. It was how they pursued everything. In their life.
All right. It's how they did everything, because the competitive nature and the winning spirit and the taste of winning, they know it doesn't have any loyalty to them. Just because they won in one thing, it doesn't mean they're going to win in something else, but the competitive nature continues to grow. All right. You know, you think about, again, look at yourself, podcasts, TV, books, It's one challenge, one win, then the next one, then the next one, then that, and you may not, it may take longer to get a win in one thing than in the other, but the competitive nature of who you are, and how important it is for you to get your message out, how important it is for you to stay relevant in your field, to stay on top of it. It's something that you live every single day. It's what literally keeps you up at night. That it's the song that plays in your head that only you can hear, and everybody's got this song, but very few people are willing to listen to that song. You listen to that song every single night. I listen to that song every single night, because if you listen to that song, you get to control the volume, you get to control the music, you get to control you become the maestro of what's going on in here.
Visiting South Dakota was always one of my someday things. Like, well, someday I'm going to go see the Dakotas, and someday I'm going to walk through Badlands National Park, and someday I'm going to see Mount Rushmore in person. And then a couple summers ago, I just made someday today, and it was awesome. The kids and I had the most amazing time. We went hiking. We saw Mount Rushmore, which is like shockingly more majestic than you think it would be. We had amazing dinners. We stayed in this awesome log cabin in a national park. It was truly one of our favorite family vacations. And I loved it because it was this great blend of seeing a part of the U.S. I'd never seen before and being outside in nature. So maybe it's time you turn someday into today. See why there's so much South Dakota and so little time. Plan your escape at travelsouthdakota.com. My favorite part about Thrive Market is that I don't have to think about it. As a mom of 4 kids trying to get dinner on the table, make sure there are enough snacks in the pantry and items to fill their lunch boxes, it is so nice to not have to think about whether or not the ingredients in what I'm shopping for are actually good for my family. This is the beauty of Thrive Market. It's your favorite health food store, but online and way more affordable. Not only can I get my favorite products, but I also always find brand new ones that I didn't know existed. Things like Ora Bora sparkling water or Unreal dark chocolate bars with coconut. Oh my gosh, have you guys had those? Thrive has supplements, household items, and clean beauty too. All of their items are vetted and all way more affordable than you think. Skip the junk without overspending. Head to thrivemarket.com/Rach to get 30% off your first order and a free $60 gift. That's thrivemarket.com/Rach, thrivemarket.com/RACH.
I'm curious. I have an instinct about this answer, but how are you as a networker, or how were you back then? Like, you strike me as someone I know you as a human, like I've seen you interact with every kind of person at 29029, but like, are you good at those relationships, those connections back in the day? Was that a big part of your success, or are you successful because you laser focus and get stuff done on your own?
I was the best in the world at it.
Well, tell us how. I mean, so was that the way that you came into the world, or is that something you learned over time?
I was never the smartest in the room. I got a 980 on my SATs. I was never like the guy that read a balance sheet. I didn't grow up in that household where that was discussed. We didn't talk about money. So my default mechanism was 2 things: storytelling and humor. I would be able to navigate meetings. I would beg, Rachel, when I went into big meetings, I would beg that they didn't call on me because I didn't know what the hell anyone was talking about when they were talking about like the budgets and stuff. And if they did, I would deflect it with like, let me tell you guys what happened to me this weekend, into a story about nothing, make them laugh and be like, okay, go to the next question, like get out. And I would get out of it. I was like, networking was one of those things that I had to get really good at because it didn't require high intelligence, high scores, or a degree in business. I had none of that. I love people. So it came really naturally to me, and all kinds of people, janitor to CEO.
Yeah.
And I built my network when I had no money. In my 20s, intuitively, I sent 10 thank you notes a day. So I sent 3,000 letters, handwritten letters in my early 20s. That was my marketing and networking plan. And I continue to do that today.
Wait, you sent 10 thank you notes every day. To who?
Everybody that I came across that impacted me. So if I would send you a thank you note after this, I would send anyone that I had a meeting with would get a thank you note. If I had a dinner and there were 6 people at the dinner, I would send everyone a note. Great to meet you. Let's stay, that was what I did. And I invited people to everything. If I was going to a local polar plunge that the fire department had in New York City, Coney Island, where New Year's Eve, like you could sign up for a team of 20, I would sign up 20 people and invite them. And even if they said no, people loved getting an invitation. They loved that I thought about them. So I was super inclusive, and I still am.
Yeah.
So I made it a point for things that didn't cost money to be inclusive with people. And everything that I did in my networking, and this is still today, this is still true. I could give a master class in this. It was one way. I never asked for anything in return, ever. Like everything was just like, if I knew you were into roller skating, I'd send you a YouTube video. Rach, I know you're into roller skating. Check out this video on how to master roller skating in 10 minutes or less. That doesn't cost me anything, but you appreciate it because I thought about you.
Right.
So I did that. I would show up at places that didn't cost money that were hot spots. So for example, I lived on my friend's couch. I lived on 18 couches between 19 and 22.
Wow.
But when I lived in LA on couch number 5, my friend John Cornick's place in Burbank, we went to lunch at the Beverly Hills Hotel.
That was what I've heard you talk about. Yes.
Can I tell the story?
Yes. No, I want the audience.
We go to lunch. I'm sleeping on this guy's couch. I'm living out of my suitcase. And I'm looking around. I'm like, that's Russell Simmons. That's the guy that runs Miramax. That's the head of Warner Brothers TV. They're all at the Beverly Hills at the Polo Lounge for lunch. And I'm like, you don't have to be a guest at the hotel for $4,000 a night to come to lunch at the Polo Club? He's like, no, you got to order a salad. So that became my office. I went there every day, literally. And I would have a salad and like a glass of water for like 8 hours.
Water.
And I would sit there for like 4 hours, but I started getting facial association with everybody. I started watching the mannerisms of the experts. How did they tip? Did they stand up to greet people? Like I was a 21-year-old kid. I was a sponge. So I'm watching this environment of the wealthiest movers and shakers. Then I go back and I sleep on my friend's couch with 5 other guys in the house, but I'm picking up these habits. But more importantly, I'm in the bathroom with the guy. Hey, can I get you this? Can I open the door? And I'm being noticed. Years later, there's facial recognition as my star starts to shine brighter. I'm bumping into the same guys at the restaurants. I'm bumping into the same guys at the hot spots. So I put myself, part of the networking was being in the environment. Part of it was really casting a wide net through things that didn't cost any money. And part of it was being really inclusive to the people already in my network.
So you said a couple things that I think are freaking genius, and I just want to take note of. One, the idea of the thank you notes. I love because not only are you keeping those connections strong, 2, it's not something people do anymore. Even when you were doing it, it wasn't a common practice to handwrite a note to someone so it gets noticed. And then the third thing is, I think, even though you're giving something to someone else, you're grounding yourself in gratitude. You're creating a world that says, all these people are here. I have abundance in my life. I've got connections. Look at all these resources I have, which is just such a beautiful state to create. And then you're also, if you've seen Hamilton, and I have to believe you have because you love hip hop, you're putting yourself in the room where it happens. So you're almost like living the life you want to have before you're able to live the life that you have, which is so genius. And by the way, I feel like we did all just get a master class in networking, because most people who talk about networking, it feels creepy. It feels slimy. It feels like you're only looking for how people can best serve you. And I know this about you because I've gotten to hang out with you. You are like, let me give you information. Let me give you ideas. Let me give you resources. You're not looking for who's going to hook you up with the
No.
next thing. Those are
Well,
golden nuggets
let me give you
for us.
let me give you two other things that I think are really important. If you were to invest 3 minutes a day, so there's no way everybody listening here can invest, if it's important to them, 3 minutes a day. So if you were to send a DM, an email, or a handwritten letter, let's say it took a minute for me to send you, hey, Rach, thanks for having me on today. Great to catch up. Love seeing you. I'm a super fan of you. To be on your show is amazing. Thank you. Boom. Takes me 20 seconds. So if I did that for 3 minutes a day and I sent 3 texts, DMs, handwritten letters, or emails, over the course of a year, if I'm consistent, that's 1,000 seeds planted. That's 1,000 people you will hit. Now, not everyone's going to buy your product. Not everyone's going to be a customer. But if you plant 1,000 seeds, you only need one. One person to change the course of your life, one buyer, one referral. So if you do that one day, nothing's going to happen. If you do that for a year and you cast 1,000 seeds, a couple of those will grow to be trees. So I'm very consistent. A part of my business today, and I'm still like, I have an underdog mentality. I built 5 businesses.
You're the world's wealthiest underdog.
No, but I have to live like that because that I got to stay hungry.
Yeah.
I got to stay in that zone.
Yeah.
So I still do this, and I do it in the carpool line. I still, boom, I knock out 3 texts every day, picking up my kids. But over the course of time, that's how you network. It's consistency. Getting me on a sidetrack. There's like 2 million podcasts in the Apple library. Do you know that 500,000 of them only have 1 episode of their podcast? A quarter,
Wow.
25%. If that's the competition, that they do 1 and like, oh my God, I didn't strike gold. The advertisers aren't calling me up and they quit. If that's the state of this country and the world, I like my chances.
Yeah.
All I got to do is do 2 podcasts and I'm in the top, I'm basically in the top 75% just because I want to 1 extra effort. So like I'm insanely consistent. I don't quit off of after 1 little thing. I mean, these aren't like super skills. These are just like,
yes,
so
I know
3
it.
minutes
I know
a day.
it.
Take 3 minutes a day and plant those seeds, man. You talked about the handwritten letter and like how unusual it is. I have 4 kids. If my kids get a handwritten letter, it's like Christmas. They freak out.
Yeah.
Part of being an entrepreneur or a business person is breaking through the clutter. And we all get emails. We all get bombarded with emails, texts, DMs. And a lot of times we don't read them, or they get sifted through by an assistant, or they go into spam. Have you ever received a letter that you haven't read? You read every letter.
Yeah,
no way.
Of course.
Yeah. And the universe, for me to send an email takes a second, blah, 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 send. To get a stamp, write something, get a stamp, lick the envelope, walk to the mailbox, put it in the mailbox. That's a whole different energy that I'm sending towards our relationship than a 1-second email. And,
that's good.
Rachel, listen, man, I built my entire career caring the most. I'm dead friggin' serious. I just marquee jet, like I cared about the customers. I network. I don't network to network. I care about the people I send the DMs to. I don't waste time. I don't like say, I have to get a quote of 3. There's people I care about. And when I put the effort in through a stamp and a letter and this, they feel that as a recipient and they return that to me. And you could go through everybody in my phone book and they'll all randomly pick anyone. They'll say the same thing. This guy cares, man, about me. And anyone can do that. And they don't teach that in school. They don't teach that. And whoever's listening to this, there's no reason why you shouldn't be the person that cares the most about whatever it is you do.
I love Saturdays because Saturdays are when we feast. It's when we have our favorite foods, our favorite snacks, and one of our go-tos, I kid you not, is a PB&J. It's so classic. It's so delicious. The PB&J is the OG. It's the greatest of all the sandwiches. And Smucker's fruit spreads are fruity, jammy goodness. If you've got a great nut butter and a great Smucker's jam, oh my gosh, they're sweet, they're smooth. It's all the things I'm here for. I'm actually making myself really hungry. I know it's just jam and nut butter, but somehow it gets the job done every single time. Because no matter how much changes, PB&J is deliciously dependable and classic for a reason. Get Smucker's jam and make the OG PB&J. I love having people over to my house for dinner. I love a holiday party. I love a summer barbecue. I love any reason to have guests come over. It's one of my favorite things to do. And truth be told, when guests come over, I actually clean more intensely than I normally would. I usually will get like fresh flowers. I'll do a little extra something so that the house looks even better than it does regularly. And if you are like me, you gotta look at what's going on at Wayfair this summer. There's something for every style and every home, no matter your space or budget. There's free and easy delivery, even on the big stuff. Like as I'm looking for things for the new house, like you can have a bed delivered, you can get an armoire, you can get full tile for your bathroom. No more huge delivery fees for patio furniture. Get the sets, the gazebos, the hot tubs, outdoor dining, and more. Shop outdoor furniture, grills, lawn games, and way more for way less. Head to wayfair.com right now to explore a huge outdoor selection. That's WAYFAIR.com. Wayfair. Every style, every home. So for people who have, let's say people have even gone so far as to they've written down their values, they know what they want the culture to be. How do you make it stick? Because I think you've touched on it a couple times. A lot of times leaders will hear a conversation like this and they're like, okay, we're going to do it. And they figure out what they want it to be and they announce it one time at the meeting and then nobody touches it until next year's all hands meeting. So how have you seen leaders really implement and make something truly what it is, not just something that we say or something that we put on the wall?
Yeah, so I think that one of the keys to it is they have to bump into it all the time. And there's a kind of variety of techniques that I go through in the book, but they're everything. So, one thing is that we talked about before is what I call a shocking role. So, I gave the example of, okay, you pay a $10 a minute fine. Okay, that's a shock to most people when they have to pay that. And it kind of is something that they're confronted with all the time, every day. One of the things that from the Haitian Revolution along those lines was Toussaint outlawed kind of officers having concubines. And so married officers having concubines. And that was just a shock to people because, the other armies, of course, are raping. And so these guys can't even cheat on their wives. What's going on? They need to know why that is. And it was a rule to set a culture of trust, that your word is important. And so that's something that they bumped into all the time. Every time they were jealous of the kind of other soldiers having concubines, they had to go, okay, well, look, my word matters in this army. And so that's something that you bump into every day. Another kind of technique that's very effective is if there's a story that's so good that it becomes lore in the company, then everybody knows that story. And it gets into everybody's consciousness that that's how they need to behave. And probably the greatest example of a long-lasting culture is the samurai culture, Bushido, or the way of the warrior. And they were fantastic at this. And one of my favorite stories is the story of the Chaiken Marikoshi, which is basically a genealogy. So in ancient Japan, the biggest status symbol was your genealogy, like basically the scroll of all your ancestors, and you know who your grandfather and great grandfather and so forth, and your whole family tree. And there was a guy by the name of Lord Soma who had this amazing genealogy, like recorded, and it was on this scroll, and everybody knew it. It had a name, the Chaiken Marikoshi, and everybody was so jealous of him. A samurai working for him, who was a very mediocre samurai, clumsy, not very talented, and so forth. But he really liked him because he was a really kind of good person and very loyal. And so one day, Lord Soma's house catches fire, and it is burning engulfed in flames, burning down. There's no way to save it. And the genealogy is in the house. And so this samurai says, and Lord Soma is so sad about the genealogy, and the samurai says, I'm going to go in and get it. And Lord Soma says, no, you're guaranteed to die. I don't want to lose you and the scroll. Like, it's gone, it's over, don't worry about it. Before he can finish talking, the samurai's in the house. So after the house burns down, they go out to look for him, and sure enough, like, he's burnt to a crisp, face down. But they notice there's a pool of blood around his body. They can't figure out why he's bleeding. And so they turn him over, and there's a slit in his stomach. And they reach into the slit, and inside his stomach is the genealogy. He cut himself open and saved the scroll, for everybody. And that went on to be known as the blood genealogy. And it's a story of, look, you can redeem yourself entirely by being loyal. That's how important loyalty is. And you could be mediocre your whole career, but be a legend, if you have loyalty to that degree. So that kind of story sets a culture in a way that all the talk could never do, because who could forget a story like that? Or a name like that, the blood genealogy.
I'm smirking as you're telling this story because I'm like, who else uses these analogies to explain modern day business principles? This is my favorite. I'm curious, as you're speaking, it's the first time that it's like really clicking in for me how often you're speaking through essentially like war, soldiers, because even in prison, I'm thinking it's a similar, like, why is that culture so similar to what it is to create a business?
Well, I think, a lot of the examples are kind of extreme situations, and you get a lot of clarity from that because, it's hard to go, well, if you do this, then, people will be political. And people go, okay, I'll have some politics, whatever. But like, okay, if you don't do this, then everybody's going to die. Then people get like the sharpness about it.
Yeah.
And I think that's, works effectively in that way. And that was certainly the case in the Haitian Revolution and in the kind of samurai culture. Actually, one of my favorite stories in the samurai culture is like a key on culture is you have to balance things because they can get out of hand if they're interpreted all one way. So, for example, at Slack, my friend Stuart Butterfield had this cultural value, which was empathy. And, what he meant is you need to understand somebody else's point of view before you kind of push your own. You need to be empathetic to why they think a certain way about something, which is an important thing in a company, right? Because somebody in marketing has a different view than somebody in engineering, and you need to understand what that perspective is before you start pushing your agenda. And that was what he meant. But what they did was it became sort of weaponized in the sense that, if somebody got a bad review from their manager, they would say, to their manager, you're off culture because you're not being very empathetic. And so that's like such a corruption of the idea. But that happens all the time in culture. And so if you go to the samurai, one of the things that they did was, and one of my favorite stories is they had this honor culture, which is basically, and it was kind of for protection, because if somebody insults you, that's a little bit of a diagnostic on whether they can steal from you, kill you, do all these things. So you never let anybody insult you under any circumstances. If they insult you, they're going to die. That's kind of the culture. So there's a story of the samurai who has a flea on his shoulder. And another person says, "Excuse me, you have a flea on your shoulder," and the samurai cuts his head off. And he's like, "Well, why'd you cut his head off?" And he's like, "Well, I'm not an animal. I don't have fleas." That was an insult. And so that's that's how far it went. So they kind of had to pair that virtue, as we call it, and we call them virtues as opposed to values, because what you do, not what you believe. And the kind of counter to that was politeness. And politeness in Japanese culture is a really amazing thing, because it's much more than what it is in our culture. And if you've ever been to Tokyo, you kind of experience it. It's quite a thing. And what it means in Japanese culture and the samurai culture is it's the greatest way to show love and respect for the person that you're dealing with. And so it's the complete set of rules for not getting your head cut off in a sense. Because if you respect me, you will treat me like this. You'll bow like this. You'll serve me tea in this way, and so forth. And so there's a very, very elaborate scheme. But then you still have to keep that in check, because what if people are just lying to kind of get your good graces, and they're being polite, but they don't really mean it? And so they have this thing that politeness without veracity is empty. It's nothing. And so they really kind of construct a culture that's got many dimensions to it so that they get it right. And, and this is something that you really have to ask, so coming up with, okay, here are the ideas of what we want to be, but then how are they going to play out when implemented is a kind of a big part of what you're trying to do.
So you're in New York, you've got this basement apartment, you're taking an acting class, then what happens?
So, okay, let me back up. When I lived in Maryland, I would do church events, because, church events paid. And so I was like, oh my gosh, I'm getting paid to do comedy, and $500 here, $1,000 here. And I'm like, to tell jokes? What? And for 5 minutes, and it's the same set. I said, what doctor gets paid $500 in 5 minutes? What doctor? What? And I was just like, oh my God, I can actually make it. I didn't know comedians were poor. I didn't, because I moved to New York thinking I would have the same kind of setup. Baby, they had these bringer shows, and it was if you bring 5 friends, each paying the full amount, then we'll give you, 4 minutes. And it's just it's how to win friends and not how to lose friends and not influence nobody. That's what that book is called. and so after a while, I was like, well, this is not gonna work, because one, I only brought me to New York, so I don't have that many friends, and the few that I do, they're poor, they're artists like me. They don't have the money to support me every night, and I need to practice. And so it was the moment where I just was like, oh my God, how am I going to get better? How am I even going to get seen if I can get on stage? So one day I go to an open mic night. An open mic is just comics who are just trying out new material. It's not a show. Sometimes there's regular audience members. Most of the time it's just other comics in the audience who are not listening to you because they're working on their set. And this particular night, this guy said, hey, I got to give up the room because I'm moving to LA. And so who wants to take the room over? And I looked around waiting for all these other more established comedians to be me. And nobody did. And I just was I'll do it. Because in my mind, again, I'm a Nigerian businesswoman. In my mind, I was I don't have to ask anybody for permission to get on stage at least once a week. And then I can meet other comics by booking them on the show. And then I get to be in control. Yeah, I'll do it. And I think what other comics saw as work, I saw as opportunity. Because how else was I going to meet other comics and then be hey, and network and say, hey, where are you guys getting up after this? Great. After I wrap up the show, I'll come meet you. So it was it was my way of fixing a problem. And a lot of times people think that when God fixes a problem, it's oh, God opened up a door for me to always perform at this place. No, God opened up a door for me to work and be responsible and have ownership, and then also meet the problem. So yes, no, it was not fun dragging equipment on the train every Thursday night, creating flyers and listserv, reaching out to comics, booking the show. But it gave me a sense of ownership. And I called that show Mama, I Made It, because I was one day I'm going to call my mom and actually say those words to her. Cut to years later, I have an HBO special with the same name.
Yes. Oh my gosh. How long did you do that? How long did you run that room?
I ran that room for about 2 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
And was that, sorry if this is a dumb question, was that lucrative at all? Or it just sort of, no.
I actually lost money because I would pay audience members if they told a joke. I remembered, and that's the thing, it's like, I was like, I had no idea how to run a room. I just remembered that when I lived in DC, there was a guy who ran an open mic, and that's why like nothing is ever wasted. And so he really enjoyed me. And so I emailed him, I was like, hey friend, doing this thing, how did you do it all these years? He was like, this is the kind of equipment to get. This is the kind of mic. This is the kind of lights. This is how I set it up. And I remembered he used to pay audience members because, you know, comedy is not easy. And everyone, sometimes people are like, I could do that. And he's like, great. Whoever tells the best joke, I'll give them $5. And so I did the same thing with My Mind Made It. I was like, you know, and that would like entice audience members, like, I could get $10 or, you know, whatever tonight. And so that's, I did not make any money. But it wasn't, and sometimes you have to do the things not to make money. But what I did make were friends. What I did create was a community. And what I did get to do was have the opportunity to consistently practice my set. I should also say I was working as a temp during the day. So that's where I actually got the money from. So I was like, I used the money from working as a temp and I funneled it back into like, once I paid rent, funneled it back into My Mind Made It.
Right. And I think it's worth saying that too, because I think a lot of people, especially a younger generation, sort of misses that step. They want to be in the thing where they're working on the dream or they're creating the content or they're putting it out in the world, but they want it to already be lucrative. They want it to already be a paying job.
Yeah.
And the reality for all of us that I know, at least in the age group that I'm in, is that we all had that. We all had day jobs and then pursued the dream that we wanted or the business that we wanted to have or the person we wanted to be at night, in the morning, on weekends. And it wasn't easy. It was a hustle and it was hard. When did you feel like you started to get traction so that you started to like, okay, now this can actually be my gig? So
just circling back to what you just said, I don't know if we've aged out of this formula, because you're absolutely right. I'm just like, maybe it's like the Instagram, YouTube culture where you can like make money if your video pops off. That really makes, I guess, people of this generation, I don't even know where we are, Z, Y, Zen, I don't know, you know, of this generation who truly feel like, yeah, no, I like, it's funny because I have people who like maybe come in to like want to work with me or whatever, and they're just kind of like, oh, this is the long run. I want to be you now, and it's like, it took a decade. Like it took a decade. Like, how are you going to be me now? Like it took so much effort and work, and maybe there is like a go gadget, you know, button that people can press and then suddenly pop. I don't know that it exists, and if it does, please send it my way. Can I Amazon Prime it?
Right.
It's just like, it's like the new norm, and to almost find a young person or even a grown person who is like committed and dedicated to like the process of like, yo, I know like sometimes you have to serve and you have to work hard and like, and then you like your time comes. Even for me now, like I am number 2 on a show, and yes, I get benefit from that. But my goal, the whole 5 seasons of shooting, was like, I'm here to serve Issa Rae in her vision. I'm here to serve, because one day someone will serve me in mine.
Let's talk about growth mindset, because for people who are watching this at home or maybe sitting in the room who aren't familiar with this idea, will you explain the role that it played in your life and sort of what it means for all of us as individuals?
Yeah, no doubt. So I call it the only belief that matters, because your behaviors follow your beliefs, and your behaviors are all that matter. Therefore, your beliefs actually are all that matter. And once you realize that your beliefs are actually a choice that we confuse with objective reality. So we look at ourselves and go, no, but I really am dumb. Like, what do you want me to say? You know what I mean? Like, you need look no further than Elon Musk or Einstein or, you know, whoever. Pick the person that's better than you at the thing that you want to be good at. And it strikes us as self-evident that we are worthless. And so people end up in this spiral of, well, I'm not good at this. I'll never be good at this. I have failed. Therefore, I am a failure. And they don't move forward to get better at something. And so I got obsessed with that idea of my whole life changed when I realized, oh, if I put time and energy into gaining a skill, I actually will gain that skill. And so something that I talk about a lot, and I never see that like moment of awakening in people's eyes. And so I just keep saying it in as many different ways as I can think of until I see people really make that shift of skills have utility. They let you do things. So you don't get a skill so you can check a box, so you can get a degree, so that you can impress your parents. You get a skill so you can build a fucking bridge, so that you can build a rocket ship, so you can build a company, so you can be a better parent, so you can, heal a human being, like whatever your thing is. But like a doctor goes to school specifically to learn how to like imagine opening a human up, cutting something out, sewing it back together, and then they're better. It's like you don't happen upon that. You go through a lot of work to get these skills. And so once people understand, oh, wait a second, the human animal is by design the ultimate adaptation machine, okay? Every species goes down one of two paths. Path A is a horse, right? And you come out and you can do all horsey things 20 minutes in. Now imagine that at 20 minutes in, your infant sounded like a 30-year-old.
Right.
That'd be really weird. See, and as a species, we have a whole different setup, which is that we are wired to learn from our surroundings. So we have this extended period of infancy where for years we can't take care of ourselves, right? Like even, when a real toddler, even in the most fundamental ways, they can't hold their own head up. They, have to wear diapers. Like it's really a serious thing. And when you think about how long we have to engage with our kids. And so, okay, that's how the species is created. So whether you believe in God or not, and let's put some God language on it for a minute. God has made you such that that's what you require to get up and going, to get fully baked, is you have this system where you can adapt to anything better than any other animal. So that's like your gift is the ability to go shifting from one thing to another. Now, if that is at a species level our gift, then it's like, well, what are you doing to make use of that? And most people, when they read a book, it is to say that they read the book. It isn't to extract that knowledge and say, and now I can do this thing. And then to go do that thing in the world. And once you realize, oh, okay, I'm designed to get better at something. If I put the time and energy into getting better, I actually will get better, and I will get better at something that matters to the world. Now you're never trapped, right? So one of my favorite quotes of all time is Kobe Bryant, "Boos don't block dunks."
Yes, you have told me this many times.
Oh man, I'm obsessed with this idea. So you can get so good at something that no matter how much people hate you, no matter how much they want to stop you, no matter how much the deck is stacked against you, no matter how much the world wants to hold you down, you can get so good at something that you literally can't be stopped. So take Kobe Bryant. So the best basketball players that the globe has to offer, we're talking out of 7.8 billion people, they are narrowed down to the best of the best of the best. And then we pay them millions of dollars to stop Kobe Bryant from scoring. And yet, Rachel, in a single game, that man scored 81 points. So that's for all of us to claim in our lives that it doesn't matter if it's hard. It doesn't matter if people are against us. The only thing that matters is, are you putting in the time and the energy to get the skill that lets you do something that you want to do in the world? And once you have that, now you've got this magic setup for fulfillment, which is, of course, the real punchline.
What does fulfillment look like for you? Because we're sitting in this room.
I've got a definition.
I know. We're sitting in this room, and I think that you and Lisa would be the definition for so many people of what the ultimate success looks like. And frankly, you could have the golden parachute of having sold Quest. You've made it to the top of the mountain. You made it to the top of the highest mountain. You leapt right off, and you could just, hang out for the rest of your life. You're young. You're wealthy, you have access, you've done the thing, you've already impressed people, and right away, you started building the next thing, and it's audacious. And I mean, if you go hang out with Tom, I said, 2 hours go by and I'm like, I don't even know what this man just said. I don't even know the words that you just used to describe this thing you're building, because it's so big. I have to learn a new language to even be able to understand what you're dreaming of next. Where does that come from? What does fulfillment look like?
Okay, so I'll define fulfillment, and I want everybody to understand that the punchline of life, so there is a reason that we pursue fame, money, accolades. So I'm not taking anything away from that, but we pursue them with a misunderstanding of what they do. So money, for instance, is the great facilitator. I wouldn't be able to build what I'm building now if I didn't have access to capital. So that really is, it's actually, money is more powerful than people think, but it's not what they've been told. So what you think is that money is going to change how you feel about yourself, that you will feel about yourself the way you feel about other wealthy people when you look at them. But the reality is it won't work. And how do I know? From experience. So I'm very grateful that I chased money really hard in the beginning before I had it and realized, oh, I'm technically on paper, I'm a multimillionaire, but like emotionally, I feel terrible. And so I don't like my life and I don't want to keep living this way. And so I learned that really early on. And so then the sort of great irony of my life is that I made money once I stopped focusing on money and I started focusing on value creation, because of course that's what people actually pay for. So that was really big, is to understand the game I'm playing is neurochemistry. The game I'm playing, that we're all playing, is how do you feel about yourself when you're by yourself? Now, if you can embrace that is all that matters, because like, I'll ask the question this way. How many billionaires have to commit suicide before people realize, oh, money can't touch that right. thing, whatever that thing is, but that even having that much money can't keep you from wanting to end your life. Okay, so now hopefully we can put money on a different shelf and say, okay, that like whatever it is that makes me feel alive, that makes me want to live, that's the thing I want to protect. Okay, so we just answered the question. It isn't going to be money, because here's the weird thing about money is, and so the way that you get wealthy when you build a business is it comes all at once. So for years and years and years, on paper, I'm worth hundreds of millions of dollars. But in reality, I'm driving a Ford Focus with a leaky exhaust, and my own employees have to give me ride homes. That is a real story. And then one day you're hitting refresh on your banking app and boom, you're now fantastically wealthy. And so literally in that moment, you realize, whoa, all of my insecurities are still here. And so I better do the work on my emotional state, my mental state, how I feel about myself when I'm by myself, independent of my outward success. Okay, so I learned that lesson early. So now we exit Quest, and because we did it in two tranches. So we took an investment, so now I'm wealthy. We took another we sold the company at the end, and so now I'm really wealthy. So it's like, okay, I've gone through that cycle, which is why I knew the only thing that matters is meaning and purpose, because that's what's going to make me feel good about myself when I'm by myself, is that I have a goal, and that goal is exciting to me and it's honorable. So I'm trying to elevate humanity. I'm trying to lift people up around me, right? It could be, you don't have to be trying to uplift the whole world, but you're trying to make it better for somebody near you, the people that you love and care. It's not just about you. And we're hardwired for this. It just is. It is what I call the physics of being human. There is no way to escape that trap. We must all, as a social creature, feel like we are meaningfully contributing to the group. Otherwise, we feel a sense of emptiness, of being lost. We may not even be able to put our finger on why, but I'm just telling you, the why is because you're a social animal that isn't contributing to the group. Okay, so fulfillment is this. This is just lining up with what your brain is wired to give you pleasure for or punish you for not doing. Working really hard to gain a set of skills that allow you to accomplish that goal that's both honorable and exciting. You have to have all of that. You have to work hard. This is why rich kids often end up in trouble, because they didn't earn any of this. And there's a sub-program in the unconscious mind that's going to reward you if you work hard for something. That's why getting out and being active and doing hard labor, at the end of the day, we're tired, but we feel good. That's a subconscious program running in your mind, just saying, hey, you were a hunter-gatherer once, and I needed, dear nature or God, input your language, I needed to give you a pleasurable reward for going out and doing that scary, dangerous, hard thing. So we get naturally rewarded for that, and we feel its absence. So you work really hard to gain a set of skills that allow you to serve yourself and other people. That's fulfillment. That is an emotional state that can weather a storm. So it can weather a breakup. It can weather losing your money. It can weather a death in the family. Okay, it isn't happiness. It's something far more concrete that says, to me, the way that I think about it, it's nature's way of ensuring that you're translating potential into actual skill set. And the reward for translating potential into used skill set is fulfillment.
The Rachel Hollis podcast is produced by me, Rachel Hollis. It's edited by Andrew Weller and Jack Noble.
Are you on the right track? What do you want to be remembered for? Is this really all there is? Asking big questions about your life can feel overwhelming. But the Hidden Brain podcast, hosted by me, Shankar Vedantam, is here to help you get started. All through the month of July, Hidden Brain will bring you our You 2.0 series with a special focus on purpose, passion, and meaning. If you're feeling adrift, alone, or burned out, this series is for you. Join us.
At Capella University, learning online doesn't mean learning alone. You'll get support from people who care about your success, like your enrollment specialist who gets to know you and the goals you'd like to achieve. You'll also get a designated academic coach who's with you throughout your entire program. Plus, career coaches are available to help you navigate your professional goals. A different future is closer than you think with Capella University. Learn more at capella.edu.